My name is Steve. Welcome back to my shop and Shark Bits number 8. In this issue of Shark Bits, I'm going to cover some viewer mail, a couple of items that I picked up on eBay, a couple of items that I picked up at a local flea market, actually a flea market at the steam meet that I went to this past week. And I'm going to take a little bit of a tour of a new lathe that I just picked up. But the first thing that I want to handle is some questions and answers with regard to the surface grinder wheel balancing video that I shot. And there were a few questions, legitimate questions that were posed, and I should have answered them during the video. However, since I was preparing to go to this steam meet, I kind of rushed through it, and I really didn't do a thorough job. It was not a thorough tutorial, if you will, on how to balance a grinding wheel. The first thing that I want to address is the balancing of the arbor itself, or not the arbor, but the hub itself. And one of my viewers asked me if I had balanced it. And the arbor was actually balanced ahead of time. Matter of fact, that particular arbor had some tape on it, and I had to clean it up a little bit. However, in thinking back about it, actually checking the balance or balancing the arbor is kind of redundant to a point. The big issue is that depending on the thickness of the wheel, the two segments of the arbor, or the two segments of the hub, are never going to be in the same position with relationship to each other. Let me show you what I mean. Here is a hub. This happens to be a little bit smaller in diameter than the one that I did on that I balanced, but I will be putting this on, mounting this and balancing it. But unless you were to balance each section individually, when you put it together, the relationship of the nut to the hub is always going to be in a different position depending on the thickness of the stone. Now this particular one's going to go on a 1/4 inch stone, which is going to put that in an entirely different relationship to the hub than if I were to put it on a 1/2 inch stone or on the diamond wheel. So in effect, each setup is going to be custom balanced, and once you balance it, you keep it together. The other question was with regard to dressing the wheel first, and absolutely the wheel was dressed first. Matter of fact, I had been grinding with that wheel, and I had dressed it a couple of times prior to this video, just to check out the finish on it. When we're shooting video, the order isn't always necessarily in the order that I'm doing it. It's in the order that it's edited and put together in the video. So I actually had dressed that stone maybe at least twice, maybe 3 times I had dressed that stone. So I hope that answers your questions with regard to the balancing on the stone. The next thing that I want to do is to address some viewer mail. And I just got a box in the mail actually while I was gone away at the steam meet. This showed up on my front porch, and it is from James Dedmon. And James has a small YouTube channel under his name of James Dedmon, and he sent me an email and told me that he was going to be sending a gift. So I've got it, and we're going to open it up right here and now. I haven't even cut the tape yet on it. Just a note from him. He says, I picked up a bunch of these paint cups recently to modify for gifts. I decided to send you a couple. This is a different paint cup than I used to start with, but it looks like it will work as well. And what James has done is a paint cup like they use for children's paints. They're supposedly spill proof. But what he has done is added an extension. It feels like it's probably Delrin that he's made it out of, so that once you fill this with oil, if it tips over, it won't spill out. So these will come in real handy. He sent me 2 of them. And I know that one of them's going to get filled with cutting oil as soon as this video is over. And I'm going to leave it right over here on my mill. I have one on my lathe, and I keep swapping it back and forth, and it's never where I want it when I want it. So thank you, James, very much. And I will leave a link to James' website in the description, and check out his website, and you can check out the video where he makes these spill-proof cups. Another one of my viewers contacted me and told me that he had listed some items on eBay. I hate to say it, but I am a big eBay buyer. I buy materials. Occasionally I'll buy some tooling and so on eBay. So far it's worked out pretty good. I used to sell a lot on eBay. I don't put too much on it anymore. I've got a few items listed right now, but I don't do much anymore with eBay other than purchases. And a couple of the items that he had listed, I was actually interested in. And the first one that I won was a set of Starrett hole gauges. And they look like they've been barely used. They're very nice. They work nice and smooth. So I had a couple of them. I had some individual ones in my machinist toolbox, but I didn't have a complete set. So now I've got a complete set of them in the pouch. The other thing that I purchased from him was a insert type cutter. It's got 3 inserts. It measures an 1.75 inches. I have a good 3-inch shell mill, but this one, I said, measures about 1.75 inches. And a friend of mine had given me some of these triangular inserts some time ago. They were too large for anything on my lathe, but I have a full box of them that will fit this cutter, so that's going to be great. It's a R8 type cutter, shank, so that should work out real good. It looks like a US made piece. There's no name on it, and the box has been damaged, so I really can't get any information on that, but it looks like a good US made tool. Well, I went to the Rough and Tumble Engineers Association Threshermen's Reunion. It's actually their 70th anniversary Threshermen's Reunion. It's held in Kinser, Pennsylvania, which is in Lancaster County. And I have gone the last 3 years in a row. I had gone several years prior to that, and then I kind of took a hiatus, didn't go back. But one of the things that I like about this particular reunion, in addition to all the equipment and so on, is the flea market. They have a huge flea market, and I always find something good at the flea market. And this year was no exception. If you're interested in any video of the event itself, I have posted, up to this point, I posted 3 videos. One of them is the line shaft machine shop. One of them was a cab ride in a Shea locomotive. They have a half-scale Shea locomotive that was built by a gentleman in South Jersey and was donated to them. They put a track, I'm guesstimating that the track is somewhere around 3/4 of a mile long. And one of my viewers actually works on the Shea. He does some mechanical work on it, and he's an engineer on the Shea. And he told me when I was by to check up on him. So he happened to be running the locomotive when I found him and offered me a cab ride. So I have a shaky video of a cab ride in the Shea locomotive at the Rough and Tumble Engineers Museum. And in addition to that, the third video, they have a back lot where they run a lot of the old steam-powered machinery. A lot of it's been converted to diesel for reliability. There's still one big steam engine there. It's a clamshell crane, and that was running. I've got a little bit of video of that. I actually took some more extensive video of that one last year, which is posted. You'd have to go back a ways to find that one, but that's also on my screen. So I hope you enjoy those videos also. What I'm going to do now is move my camera so I can get a little bit better close-up on some of the goodies that I picked up at the Threshermen's reunion. One of my favorite parts of the steam meet here at Kinser's is the flea market. One of the items that I picked up at the flea market is a 50mm optical flat. It's a pretty nice shape, made in the Netherlands, and I blame Tom Lipton and Robin Renzetti and Stefan for this, because since I've gotten my grinder and I'm looking at a lot more precision and flatness and so on, I decided that I needed an optical flat. So now I just have to come up with a monochromatic light source for it. So that was find number 1. Next thing that I picked up was an oil can. Now it looks like an Eagle can. I'm far from an expert on Eagle oilers, and I don't know whether it is or not, but it's a nice brass oiler, and the pump works on it. It's brass. It was $5, so I was going to take a chance on it. I think I'm going to use this one for whey oil because it's got a nice long narrow tip on it that will fit down in the ball oilers and the Gitz oilers. So that was another find at the flea market. I'm always looking for tap handles. I've got a thing for tap handles, and although I actually was looking for a larger one, a smaller one showed up. And this measures about 7 inches long, and it's got a beautiful color case hardening on it. And I do a lot of small tapping number 4, number 2, and even smaller. This looks like it'll probably handle down to about a number 2 tap, and it's nice and light. It's got a good feel for being able to use it for the small taps. This was $15. It was a little more than I really wanted to spend on it, but it looks so nice. But the next item kind of made up for it. So I had a $20 bill and it decided I didn't really need change. And the same seller had these Starrett scales for $5 a piece. So that was a buy. If anybody's looked at these things on eBay, you know they go for a lot more than $5. It costs $5 to get one shipped. So even though I've got several of them in my box already, I figured I'd pick up an extra one. I can always leave it on a different machine. The big item that I picked up is this radius dresser. And I don't know whether you can see that. Oops, wrong end. On this end, it is by Perfex. It's a Tangematic dresser. I've found several Tangematic dressers listed. They all look identical. There's a couple different manufacturers on it. But this can be used to dress angles, and it goes back and forth, so you can set your angle and dress a stone at an angle. Let's go back and lock it at 0. It's got a couple of locks that hold it in place, that center it. These center it, so now it can't move. And it's got a scale on this side. It's 0 in the center, and below 0 gives you a convex radius. Above 0 will give you a concave radius once you set your diamond height. And there's a couple of set screws in the end here to loosen this, and you can move this this diamond up and down to set your radius. So you can use it for radiusing a whole stone, or you can do form radiusing on your stone. So it's in real nice shape. It's got a little, very little bit of surface rust. So all it's going to take is a little Scotch-Brite to clean it up. It's fully functional, and I made the gentleman offer on it. He accepted my offer, and I'm very pleased with the price that I got this for. I wasn't so happy trying to carry it out of the flea market. It got a little heavy after a while, but we got it home. The final item that I picked up, it's actually, I found it the first buyer. It's somebody that I have stopped at before, and he had assorted Greenlee Taps, brand new taps, and they were all in the original boxes. They were all with the plastic separators, so they're absolutely perfectly sharp. And even though I have all of these sizes and multiples, I figured it was good to have a few of the real popular sizes in a good sharp tap, because every once in a while you get a tough material and you need a really sharp tap. So I'm going to put these in my tap assortment and kind of keep them off. I got 1032, quarter, 5/16, 3/8, 7/16, and half. And he was selling these at 12 for $10. And at that kind of a price, I couldn't go wrong for a good high quality US made tap. You can hardly go wrong. So that pretty much concludes my purchases at the steam meet. Next I'm going to go handheld and take a look at an Atlas clausing lathe that I picked up. It's a 618. It's the same model as the one that I use every day, the one that I have mounted here. Mine's an older one. It's an Atlas 618. This is newer. Matter of fact, I even got the original invoice with it, with the paperwork. I have all the paperwork, the original breakdown of all the accessories that he got. It was purchased new in 1979. So I'm going to go handheld now and go over and take a look at that lathe. Here is my new to me Atlas clausing 618 lathe. It's the same model of the lathe that I'm currently using. It's also the same model as the one that you can probably see behind it that's spare parts. But this one is made a little bit differently. Gear case on this one is square, whereas the older style has got some round castings on it, and this one is square. The only thing that I'm not crazy about on it is that this end cover that covers the change gears is held on with a couple of thumb screws. It doesn't swing open, and so you've got to undo the thumb screws, oops, to take it off and get to the change gears. But everything appears to be in pretty good condition. It has a smaller motor with it. The motor that came with it is only a 1/4 horse motor, and I'm using a 1/2 horse on my existing one, so I'll probably adapt the 1/2 horse motor to run on it if I decide to do it. It's in pretty good shape. The ways are in excellent condition. I think it's in better shape than the lathe that I'm currently using. I've got a little bit of backlash in the cross slide, and I just actually changed out the nut on that. And this originally had a sheet metal cover, and this screw that goes through holds the nut in place. And I pulled the nut out of this other lathe, which was in better condition, and I also pulled the cast iron cover off of it, and I put that in. But I've got a little bit more work to do. I got to set up the backlash on the cross screw. This is a little loose yet, and the handle's broken. I've got to deal with that. The compound is in good shape, and I don't see too much play in that. More often than not, the handles on the compounds are broken. Sometimes the whole compound is broken. I actually have this one, and I have a spare from the other lathe, so I'm in pretty good shape. The lathe that I'm using, that I have over on my workbench, had a broken compound on it when I purchased it, and I replaced that. I was able to find one on eBay. It also came with a steady rest. Now, I had actually borrowed this steady rest before they gave me the lathe, and I had put a couple of bearings in it because I needed it for a job. So a couple of months even before I got the lathe, I had the steady rest. So that's the steady rest that came with it. It came with a follow rest, which I haven't used, a 4-jaw chuck, a nice 4-jaw chuck, although I have 2 other ones. I don't really need a third one, but I have a third 4-jaw chuck that came with it. So I'm going to end up with 2 complete lathes. And it also came with the milling attachment. And although I really don't have any use for it at this point, it's a real nice accessory to go along with that lathe. Also came with a drawbar assembly, which I have been using. One of the last projects, actually, when I was making the little Delrin feet for the balancer, I used my ER16 collets on the lathe, and I was able to use this drawbar on the lathe. I had to just put a couple extra spacers on it, and I have an ER16 collet set up in here that is a 3/8 coarse thread, and I was able to use that to hold it in place, so that worked real well. In addition to these major parts that I showed you, I got a lot of tool bits and a lot of extra tooling with this lathe. I haven't even sorted through all of it yet. So before anybody asks in the comments if I'm ready to sell one, I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. I've got, looks like 2 functioning 618 lathes, and I've got 1 for spare parts. Probably going to put this new one together. I think that this is the one I'm going to use. I'm going to check it over a little bit more carefully, see what kind of accuracy I get out of it. I haven't made any decisions as to what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to keep 2 lathes or what I'm going to do. This wraps up Shark Bits number 8. If you like what you see, please like and comment. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to hit the little bell on the screen so that you get notifications as I post new videos. My next video will be coming out shortly. I'm actually going to be building another piece for the ongoing saga of the grinder. And I'm going to be building a crush dresser for dressing the diamond wheels on the grinder. It'll involve a lot of lathe work and pressing some bearings in and so on. So until next time, thank you for watching.